are lab 3 and lab 10. I'm not going to require lab 3 because I'm going to assume that most of you don't have blood pressure kits at home. And I know that you can get that done at Walmart, but I'm not going to ask you to go and touch equipment that probably hasn't been cleaned, etc., etc. If you want to, that's your choice. We do need to talk about blood pressure though, a little bit, so that you understand using this worksheet. Make sure that you read that background information thoroughly, okay? What we need to understand, blood pressure is very, very sensitive to movement or emotion, okay? So as soon as you move, you will change your blood pressure. So when you take blood pressure, ideally the best time to take it is lying down in bed in the morning, like have the blood pressure monitor at the side of the bed, and do it before you sit up, because sitting up changes your blood pressure. If you're going to do it within a lab scenario like this, if you were here today, we would sit down on the floor and I'd turn the lights down, and you'd have to sit quietly for somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes before you take your blood pressure. And you know, they say a minimum of 5 minutes, so you know, be aware of the fact that if you're only sitting for 5 minutes, that blood pressure still may not be accurate. When you go to the clinic, right, and you've rushed in from the car and they're taking your blood pressure, that's not an accurate reading of your blood pressure. However, having said that, as long as your numbers are within a healthy range, they don't care whether it's accurate or not, right? They're just looking for healthy versus unhealthy, okay? So if you look at the chart on page 15, they've got blood pressure classifications. So we have normal. In relatively recent times, they've added the new category of pre-hypertension, and the American Heart Association and the Centers for Disease Control and other organizations that are kind of federally looking at health within the nation, added that pre-hypertensive so that they could try to catch individuals whose blood pressure was going in the wrong direction before it's clinically hypertension, and now it's much, much more difficult to manage it, right? So we've got normal, we've got pre-hypertension, then we have 2 stages of hypertension, stage 1 and stage 2. If you're stage 2 hypertension, they probably have you on bed rest, right? Because your chances of dropping dead with a stroke or a heart attack are pretty high at that point, okay? To be classified as hypertensive, pre-hypertensive, it only needs one of the numbers to be above what is healthy, right? It doesn't have to be both numbers. So when you look at blood pressure, you have a larger number, that's the systolic blood pressure, okay? And we're about to start the cardiovascular system, so we'll be talking a lot more about systole and diastole in the next couple of classes, okay? So systole is the contraction phase for the cardiac cycle, all right? So it's kind of logical then to realize that when it's contracting, we see a higher number, all right? And then diastole is the relaxation phase of the cardiac cycle, and that's the lower number, all right? we have systolic and diastolic blood pressures that we're measuring. For systolic blood pressure to be in the healthy range, that larger number needs to be less than 120. Okay? The diastolic number wants to be less than 80. So less than 120 over less than 80, and you're good to go. All right? If either number is higher than that, they're going to call you back and retest you in a week or so, a couple of weeks. Right? So your doctor, your clinician, whoever you're seeing, isn't going to classify you as hypertensive based on one number because blood pressure is so sensitive, right? They're going to want a chronic picture of those numbers being too high. So if you go in, you're having a checkup, your blood pressure is high, they'll ask you to come back in a couple of weeks, get it tested again. If it's high again, they'll say come back again, right? The pre-hypertensive category runs from 120 to 139 for the systolic pressure, and the diastolic pressure runs from 80 to 89. Remember, only one of those numbers has to be in that range to count as pre-hypertensive. Stage 1 is 140 to 159, 90 to 99, and stage 2 is 160 or higher over 100 or higher. Right? So stage 2 is pretty bad. I mean, you're seriously unwell if you're stage 2 hypertensive. Okay. As I said, hypertension can be developed because of stress, right? So it can be an emotional thing because stress releases cortisol and all these other hormones that increase heart rate, which increases blood pressure, okay? If that's a chronic picture, and that's happening all the time, if every day I go to work, it's stressful, then it doesn't take too much to develop hypertension. When we exercise, we have an immediate rise in blood pressure, right? So we see big changes in blood pressure if we're doing endurance work. We see even bigger changes in blood pressure if we're doing resistance work, okay? But that's not considered an issue in most cases because when you stop exercising, it comes down. And by exercising regularly, by being physically active on a regular basis, you can bring down your resting blood pressure, right? Because we bring down resting heart rate, and so we see lower resting blood pressures, okay? So exercising and physical activity is, in the long term, is very beneficial for hypertension or pre-hypertensive. So particularly if someone you know is diagnosed as pre-hypertensive, they're unlikely to give that individual medication. They're going to try to get them to manage that state with physical activity and diet changes. Okay? Okay, then the second lab that we were due today to do is a step test. And step tests are really interesting. Now, in the book, we have the Queen's College step test. Had you been here with me, that's not the one we would have done. I would have given you this handout, which is the YMCA 3-minute step test. And I've just checked Blackboard and this isn't up there. So when I get home today, I will make sure that I put a copy of this other version of a step test up on Blackboard for you, okay? The reason that we do the YMCA and not the Queen's is because the Queen's College test wants a bench, stair step or bleacher that is 16¼ inches high, and I don't have one of those. The YMCA test wants a 12-inch high step, and it just so happens that the seating in Greyhound Arena is exactly 12 inches. So we shift over into the arena and we do our step test in there. Okay? So when you do a step test, you're going to be recording your heart rate. So before you do the step test, we take a resting heart rate. Again, given that we've just moved from the classroom into the arena, that's going to be a little bit off, right? But we get your pre-heart rate, and then you do the step test, and then we take another heart rate, all right? So we take the heart rate for a full minute, okay? And that's because heart rate is very variable across a minute. So when you're taking heart rate, if you're not going to use a heart rate monitor and you're going to take your pulse, you've got to decide what is it I want to know from the heart rate, all right? So I can take my heart rate for 10 and times it by 6. I can take my heart rate for 30 seconds and times it by 2. Right? Or I can take my heart rate for a full minute. What is it I want to know from that heart rate information, right? From that data. So an example of this would be if you don't have a heart rate monitor, right? And you're jogging or running or sprinting hills, and you want to know what your heart rate is at the point that you finish the right then. You take it for 10 seconds and multiply it by 6. Right? Here, what we want is a recovery heart rate. Okay? So I can't take that 10 second and times it by 6, and even 30 by 2 would be quite inaccurate. I want to take the full minute because heart rate drops, depending on my fitness level, heart rate drops quite quickly within that first minute. I want the complete picture of that first minute. Okay? So, recovery heart rate is a very good indicator of cardiovascular fitness. Okay? The fitter I am, the quicker my heart rate will drop down towards rest. Okay? It's a really nice, clean correlation. So it's a great one to use. So the YMCA 3-minute test or the Queen's College test, and on the Queen's one they stepped for, where? Oh, it's different whether you're male or female. So the men are going to do about the same speed as you do on the YMCA. The women are going to go slower than on the YMCA. And you're doing a 3-minute test as well. Okay. So you set the metronome and you're like ding, 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 step, 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 up, step, down, step, up, step, down, right? And you keep going for 3 minutes. You sit down, you find your pulse, and count a whole minute straight away. All right? And then that recovery heart rate, you can compare to a chart and see where your fitness lies in comparison to a normative population. Okay? So it's quick, it's cheap, it's dead easy to run. It's a great field test, whether you're a PE teacher or a coach, for checking how fit your students, athletes, clients, whoever, right? Doesn't need fancy equipment other than a metronome, and you know, that's it, a stopwatch, and that's all you need. So it's a really quick, easy way to look at, am I helping this person or these people get more fit, right? Is what I'm doing working in helping them get more cardiovascular fitness, okay? And we're very interested in cardiovascular fitness because of the links with long-term health. You know, it's good to be strong and to do resistance work, because that helps me maintain my balance as I get older, means I'm less likely to fall, means I can maintain my independence because I can pick my own shopping up and my own vacuum up, right? I don't need help to live, I can live independently, right? So being strong is important from those perspectives, but being strong is not linked with long-term health issues other than falling, right? And so if I don't want to develop heart disease, or I don't want to be at risk of a stroke, right, then cardiovascular work is what we have to do. Okay? And that's part of the reason why I have your physical activity logs for class linked to aerobic work, not anaerobic work. Because I want you to start thinking about, how do I build this cardiovascular work into my life? Right? So, the other interesting thing about the step test is it's 3 minutes. Okay, and if you were here, I would make you answer this. If one of you wants to answer this question, have a go. What have we got here? We've got Alexis and Chris. Okay, so if I'm working for 3 minutes, what will be my predominant energy system? Any ideas? Can you remember? Try.
Would it be the ATPC?
Okay, that was a good try. That would have been the start off, right? Because that one runs up to about 25-30 seconds. So when I start doing my step test, I certainly would use ATPPC to begin with, okay? What's the next system after ATPPC? Number 2, breaks down carbohydrate. It's going to break down glucose or glycogen. No? Glycolysis. Right? So, glycolysis takes over being the predominant system around half a minute, up to around 2.5 to 3 minutes. Okay? And then after 3 minutes, my aerobic system is going to be predominant, making my ATP. Okay? So, when you do a step test, it's pretty uncomfortable towards the end, unless you're very in shape, right? Because what happens with the step test is I use my ATP-PC system, then I use my glycolysis, and I'm right at the end of glycolysis being able to provide enough ATP for the work, but I'm not quite at the point where I switched into aerobic work. So that last 15 to 30 seconds can be very uncomfortable for people because they're kind of in that no man's land of energy system there, that transition point. Okay? So people who are not in really good shape can struggle with this test quite a lot. The 12-inch step for the YMCA is manageable for most people. I think in all the time I've been teaching this class, I've probably only had 2 people who really, 2, maybe 3, that I could think of that really struggled with that 12-inch step, and they were very, very overweight or obese. The 16¼ step, that's quite deep, right? So now you're looking at quite a lot of leg strength to manage finishing the test as well as fitness, okay? But yeah, recovery heart rate, a great tool to track how much fitter you're getting with your training or your physical activity work. Okay? So, what I would like for today, I'm not expecting a blood pressure measure, as I said, so I won't be opening up an assignment for the blood pressure. I would like you to try a step test. Just try it, right? So I'll put up the YMCA, but I think I'm less interested in you meeting the exact procedures than just giving it a go, right? And seeing how your heart rate changes, okay? If you've got a 12-inch step, that would be great, right? That would be lovely. If you don't have a 12-inch step and you only have the curb outside your house, use the curb. It won't give you the true picture of the assessment, but it will at least give you an idea of this recovery heart rate situation. Okay, so I'm going to open up assignment and participation for you to load your worksheet for a step test. Okay, and I'll put in, as I say, I'll put up the YMCA one. I've never looked, but I'm almost certain that you can find a metronome count on YouTube or somewhere online, all right? So you want to make sure that the count is at the right speed and do your steps in time to the count. If you can't, let me know, and I'll dig around and see if I can find one, or I'll record one for you, because I have a metronome here, okay? But I'm thinking that would not be that hard to find. I could be wrong. That happens. Okay, questions? No questions? Okie dokie. All right. I do have office hours this afternoon between 1 and 3. So if you think of something you need to ask me, jump into the Collaborate room for office hours. Or drop me a discussion board question so that I can answer it and everyone can see the answer. Okay? All right. Have a lovely afternoon.